Hi there. Thanks for clicking on this video. Dr. Frank Anderson, in my opinion, and many other people's opinion, is the last word on trauma. Dr. Frank and I have spent many, many hours talking about this subject. And in this video, we're going to talk about 5 mistakes that people make when they're trying to heal from trauma. Dr. Frank, welcome back to MedCircle.
Thank you. So good to be here as usual.
You know, on YouTube, I like to jump into things very quickly. I don't want to lose any viewers' attention. So let's jump right into the first mistake that people make while they're trying to heal their trauma. And this is people who are trying to think their way out of trauma. Why isn't thinking, or why isn't insight alone enough to heal?
Not only is insight alone not enough, it doesn't really help. It's a false assumption. You know, people, and thinking is the way we survive, right? It's so important. So I don't want to trash thinking our way through trauma because it's an important helper, not solver of the problem. That's the way I like to think about it, because we have to make sense of our experience, right? Especially when we're kids and we go through something overwhelming, we need to figure it out. When the parents or the people who are harming us don't give us perspective, don't give us a context, that's what we do, is we naturally fill in the blanks. So we need to make meaning. It needs to make sense. So we do this all the time, right? That's adaptive. I call that a survival strategy, Kyle. Like, that's a survival strategy. So thank your thinker, right? Thank your thinker. But the reality is, what we've learned now in the field over the last 20 or so years is that processing within the head, figuring it out, sorting it out, doesn't actually access the neural networks within your body, within your emotions that are affected by trauma. So it keeps you up here and it doesn't allow you to do the healing that you need to do. So what we know now is you need to do some form of experiential therapy, meaning a therapy that can access your emotional world, a therapy that can access the body sensations where the trauma is held. And, you know, there are many of them, interestingly enough, which is the good news. It's not just one. But thinking your way through trauma is not going to help. And let me just say this personally, as someone who was in, 10 years of analytic treatment, 5 times a week for 11 years, actually. I thought my way through all my trauma. I could tell you everything about it, backwards and forwards and up and down and in and out. And it was still held in my body. And I still didn't have access to my full emotional life because the trauma blocked access to my emotions. So thinking's helpful to a point, but it's not the way we really heal.
Yeah. When I hear the word thinking, I sometimes just think of the word worrying and how much I try to worry my problems away, worry my stuff away. And it doesn't work. Worrying doesn't work like that. That's a good one. Thank you. Let's move into the second one. This is a mistake. I've definitely made this. Ignoring or distracting yourself from triggers, or what you like to call activations, instead of trying to learn from them.
Yeah.
I'm not going to ask a question. I'm just going to let you respond to that.
Okay. All right. Yeah, this is a bummer. This is what I really feel.
Oh, good.
It's a bummer because, in fact, things that are painful, things that are harmful, like, it's a natural instinct to get away from them. And we have so many distractions in our world today. We are out. We're on our phones. We're busy. We're doing. There's so many easy ways to be distracted this day and age. So it's an easy thing to go to. However, you've maybe heard me say this when we talked about our course: when it's intense, it's yours.
Yeah.
Okay. If you're having an intense reaction, which is your trauma being activated, you being triggered by something, that is a signal that something's going on inside. So if you ignore it, if you disconnect from it, it becomes problematic. And the reality is, when we ignore these things, they don't just go away. They get channeled in different areas in different parts of our body. So this is where a lot of medical problems come up. When we distract and when we ignore, that energy, that trauma, that unprocessed trauma energy has to go somewhere, right? So does it go for me in asthma? I used to have a lot of asthma because the not speaking up, it felt like I was being choked and silenced, right? A lot of people have autoimmune diseases. This huge development of increase, I should say, of autoimmune diseases largely has to do with the ways that our stress response, because of trauma, is not appropriately processed and channeled and released. And therefore, it shows up in all these different ways. So there's rheumatoid arthritis, there's fibromyalgia, there's a lot of autoimmune related disorders that are rooted in us suppressing our emotions, us ignoring and distracting, and they have to go somewhere. And so they seep out often in medical ways, sometimes in psychiatric issues like depression, anxiety, OCD. Interesting. When I think about distracting, also, Kyle, OCD and eating or substance issues are great distractors, right? When you're
Mhm.
focused, when you struggling with eating issues and you're preoccupied with what am I going to eat, what am I not going to eat, binging or purging or restricting, that is a huge distractor because it takes up so much mental energy so you don't have to feel. Same thing with substance use, right? We can really get preoccupied and overly focused on when am I going to get my next hit. It's a way to distract us and keep us from our feelings. Same thing
Mhm.
with OCD. A lot of people don't realize obsessive compulsive disorder takes a lot of time, energy, and effort, right? But it's a beautiful distractor from feeling
Mhm.
instead of thinking and doing and sorting out. So distractors are used as survival strategies. And in fact, when we ignore our pain, it causes trouble in other ways. And so moving toward it without reliving it
Yeah.
is what we're looking for when we're dealing with trauma healing.
Yeah, to give the viewer more context, Dr. Frank and I spent 2 days filming a course all on trauma and how to deal with the trauma. I don't even want to say heal from it all the time because sometimes it's like I talked to another doctor the other day
Yeah.
and she goes, sometimes you have to learn to live with the trauma because the healing part of it is like it's just not accessible at the moment. It's too real and raw and you have to learn to, live with it. But I love this idea of revisiting the trauma. I love but not reliving the trauma, because
Yeah.
no one wants to do that. But we can take a little, overnight bag and take a visit.
Yes.
That I understand. We're going to talk about our third mistake, which is all about in the body. But before we do that, Kira, could you play the Body Keeps the Score clip for our dear viewer, and then we'll come back with Dr. Frank.
Our bodies are our interface with our environment. How we interact in the world is through our bodies. And things come in through our body. So it is the first way we encounter something pleasurable, something painful. The body is the way it comes in. And we know through our nervous system that information comes in through the body and then it goes up through our nervous system, spinal cord, into our brain. And then we process that information, as I talked about before, and then we have an appropriate response. Right? So there is a loop. Information in, goes up, we process, and then we react and we respond. What ends up in trauma and in PTSD is that there are certain parts of the brain, the insula is one of the specific structures, where we integrate body awareness with our thoughts and our feelings. It's called the insula. These structures get affected and altered in trauma and they can shut down. So in trauma, we encode fear more intensely in the amygdala. I talked about that before, the fear center.
Mhm.
And we are unable to process the trauma in an integrative way in our bodies. because of what happens as a result of trauma. So we don't have the capacity to process trauma in our body, so it gets stuck and stored there.
I have never talked about trauma with anybody who's a professional and them not bring up the body keeps the score. I mean, like, it's just like that book, I feel like, is considered the Bible by so many.
It is.
Yeah.
Bessel and I've known him since 1992.
Amazing.
I've been working with him my whole career. We're friends and colleagues, and nobody has brought trauma to the world quite like he has.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if I told you, my production company here is working on turning that into a documentary, so that we're going to bring it out to the masses, so that information gets out to as many people as possible, because he's really brought trauma to the map in a way that nobody else has.
Yeah, that clip we just watched was from MedCircle's course on trauma, featuring Dr. Frank Anderson, among other trauma experts. And it is, I was talking about this course with somebody else the other day, and I said, they go, so is it going to help? And I said, that depends on you, baby. That depends on you. This is not a pill. It's not an injection. Yes. This is work.
Yes.
And if you're watching this and you think, I'm down for some work, I've got some trauma and I want to do some work on it, then the course is a really great fit. In the link of this, or in the description of this video, we'll put a link to that course. If you're watching this video before November 30th, you can get 50% off that course. If it's after November 30th, I'm sorry you missed that. We'll put the code in the description of this video as well. So just check out the description of this video to access the course and get that discount. We'll see you inside. We sent it to so many other people after it was finished just to get feedback. And these people aren't, they have no reason to lie. They're like most comprehensive, best resource for trauma healing they've ever seen. Over and over, we got that.
Wow.
So I feel really good about it, and I'm excited for people to actually take a little bit of control back, get a little bit of peace back, get a little bit of understanding and insight. Awesome. Let's move into this third mistake on this topic. It's avoiding the body.
Before we do that, can I say something? I had something that pop up when you were talking about that. It's because information is really important for people. When you're like, hey, do you have trauma and do you want to do something about it, right? I just wanted to say, like, you need to have a framework to understand it, because so much of us blame ourselves for our reactions and our responses. It's my fault, I'm bad, and I'm wrong. We take responsibility when those who harmed us don't, right? We take responsibility when those who harmed us don't. So when you have information and gives you a context for it, you're like, oh, it isn't my fault. I'm not bad and wrong. There's a physiology behind this. My body's reacting and responding in a way that's trying to protect me. So that information in and of itself is super helpful. And not only learning how to create safety within your body is one of the first big steps in order to enter that healing process. Because when you're constantly in chronic trauma and stress, you can't do a lot of healing. I talked in the previous clip, your brain doesn't even function in the normal ways to process information. So then there's this accessing safety within, safety in relationship, that's really required in order for us to do that deeper work. You can't do the deeper work from a traumatized perspective. So understand the trauma, have a context, create the safety internally as well as relationally to allow yourself to go to those deeper places of pain. And the way I like to say it, Kyle, you've heard me say this before, is release the energy that doesn't belong to you, that you were forced to carry.
If you like sound bites, Dr. Frank's got a lot of them. Okay, I love a good sound bite. I like a good little message.
Sorry.
You know what from the course? I'm just going to go off the script for 2 seconds. You know what I loved in the course that you said, and I talked to Dr. Romney about this yesterday, actually.
Oh, good.
And I go, this is what Dr. Frank said you tell me if you think otherwise, because
Yeah.
everyone's entitled to their own opinion. You said so much about how I'm not going to say it as good as you, but so much of the consequences we experience after trauma um, is not a direct result of the traumatic event, but what happened after the traumatic event. If
Mhm.
you had that love and connection and safety and caring
Yeah.
after that traumatic event, you are likely not to have as much severe of responses or whatever you want to call them. Um, where if you got in a car accident and then you had to go into fix it mode and save everybody else and you didn't focus on yourself and then you just got buried and buried and buried.
Yeah.
So it's like we're so easy to point and go, that's what happened and that's why
Yeah.
this. And that's not always the full story.
That's right. It isn't. There's so much more to it. And, I say trauma blocks love and connection,
Mhm.
and it's love and connection that heals trauma. I would
Yeah.
also say it's love and connection that can prevent the development of wounding and trauma. That's the piece that's important around that.
Yes. Yeah, we're always talking about reacting to the trauma. We're never talking about that preventative piece,
Right.
which can exist even
Yes.
after the trauma exists.
Yes.
And that's I really want for parents to hear that. If your
Yes.
child is
Yes.
experiencing a trauma, maybe it's a divorce, a death, whatever it is, you have the ability to influence this
Yep.
because we are now in the after the trauma space. We're
Yes.
post-trauma, and you still have influence over that,
Could I say one other thing about it?
Yes.
This is what we do, Kyle. We just get going and we go from one topic to another to another. This is what we do, which I love, by the way. The aftermath is so important. And, this idea of love and connection, I just recently was with my son and he had this first professional race. We were in Virginia. His first professional sports car race. He's a race car driver. It's like a big deal. He did incredible during this race. Like he was beating professionals. It was his first professional race. He just did amazing. And then the second driver in this 6-hour race got in the car and after 10 minutes crashed the car. They were out of the race, right? And he was so disappointed and so hurt and just devastated. And this was a very expensive first thing. It was hard. This was horrible for this kid. He would put so much, he's been working on this for months, this one race, right? And I knew, I was like, I am going to be here for him through all of it. And I just was steady. I was present. I'm here. I'm like, yeah, this sucks. I totally get this. I understand how hurt and upset you are. But I just knew, stay with him, stay with him, stay with him. Not relive and tell the story over and over and over again, because that's what people do. What happened? What happened? That actually encodes trauma memory. Okay. I was like, in order for me to be with my kid needs love and connection and support. So I just stayed that way. And that's what helped him process it, work through his feelings, work through his anger, work through his disappointment, and actually reach out to the kid then who crashed the car and destroyed the race to have this kind of beautiful repair, which he wouldn't have been able to do had he not had the love and support after that really difficult moment for him in his life to allow him to regulate and process to then show up in the world differently. So it's super important and it's preventable for parents if they have that awareness.
Yeah. And what you said, the first thing you said was, yes, this sucks.
Yes.
I love that.
Yeah.
So many people go, it will be okay. Everything will be fine.
Don't be
Shut
negative.
up. Shut up. One time when my dog died earlier this year, I went to the emergency vet and my friend, well-intended, love this person, he goes, everything will be okay. She'll be okay. And then she died 4 hours later. And I'm like, this is my point.
Yes.
Stop it.
Yes.
Stop. How about this really sucks? I'm
Yeah.
scared too. You know, like that would make me feel better.
We
Anyway.
have this fear if we embellish the feeling, it'll never stop and it'll take us over. But it's the exact opposite.
Yeah, exactly. It is the opposite of that. Exactly. Guys, if you didn't get that, go take the course. Okay. I already took it. So I already am. I'm in the know. I'm in the trauma know. All right. We talked about the third mistake, avoiding the body. Let's go into the fourth mistake. This is minimizing or comparing your trauma. Oh, mine's not as bad as hers.
Yeah.
What do you think about that mistake?
Yeah, comparing is another one of those survival strategies. If like we do that to make ourselves feel better and downplay our own. Mine's not as bad as yours, meaning mine isn't really as bad as it actually feels. Do you understand?
Oh,
We're
yeah.
trying to compare. I mean, people do it the other way too. Like, I don't have a right to have feelings because somebody else has it much worse.
Yeah.
Or theirs is so much worse, so I don't have to feel how bad mine is. So it's important to kind of pay attention to the downplaying and comparing, right? What's the function of it? Is it there to make you feel better about yours, or is it to make you feel, worse about yours, like you don't have a right? Because it can go either way. The other thing that's important about comparing trauma is perception. And we may have talked about perception, because it's not only what happened to you, how you react and you respond. What is your perception? What does it do to you? Some highly sensitive people who are super empathic take things in a very different way than people who are more disconnected or shut down, right? So what do you perceive? Like, I may have said this to you, and it's an example that I use fairly often. My brother and I grew up in kind of the same home. I got more of the abuse than he did because of being gay, and at the time I certainly didn't know that. But we both grew up in a traumatic family, in a traumatic upbringing for sure. He became an avid hunter. He hunts and kills anything he can. Bow and arrow, gunshot, this shot, elk, alligator. Like, he's obsessed with killing, right? One of the adaptations. I mean, he's a sweet kid. My brother and I are super close. But that's the direction he took. That's how he perceived and what he did with his trauma. And I'm big and I'm strong and nothing's going to get me. He took on this like overcompensation for power and control, right? I'll be the violent one, right? He's not killing people. He's not killing people, but that's how he perceived the helplessness and the reaction that he had. I become like the world famous trauma expert, blah, blah, blah. Like, I took this very different approach. I'm going to learn everything in the world about it. I'm going to help as many people as I can about it, and there's no better or worse. It had to do with what happened to each one of us, how we perceived it, and what we did about it, right? So it's important to pay attention to that, because when we're comparing traumas, we want to take into account the perception each person had to a similar event, because they'll have a different trajectory and a different reaction and a different outcome. So you want to what did it mean to you? What did it make you feel about yourself? What did it make you feel about the world? Like, what was your perception? Shame is a biggie here. I'm bad, I'm wrong for what happened to me, versus I'm going to do everything in my power to never be vulnerable again. So that's a big piece of how we manage comparing, right? Is this way of, we have to pay attention to how each person perceives it and what they kind of do with it. But comparing is usually a way to not feel the enormity of the situation in one way or another.
It reminds me of components of the just world theory. Are you familiar with just world theory? Again, I should not be explaining it, but basically, like, somebody was mugged, let's say, on the way as they were entering a grocery store. And that person might go, well, yeah, that's why I would never go to that grocery store. It's a way to like that we live in this just world. And if you go to the bad grocery store, well, then of course you're going to get mugged. I would never do that, so I'm not going to get mugged, so I protect myself. It's like we're constantly doing that version to just keep ourselves safe. That can't happen to me because I don't go to that grocery store.
That's right. That's right. And that's what people do when this is one of the ways you get re-traumatized, is when you overgeneralize the wrong thing. Okay.
What do you mean?
Yeah. What I mean by that is this. So you're walking to the grocery store and you get mugged. And then you're like, oh, I'm never going to go down that street and go to that grocery store, and then I'll be safe.
Right.
When in fact, that isn't the radar that you need in order to be safe. So then you walk down 3 other streets that could be more dangerous into a neighborhood that is more toxic in some ways, but you're like, I'm safe as long as I avoid that.
Yeah.
It's not really what's going on here. It's, am I self-connected and self-aware enough to pay attention to what is dangerous in a moment, whether I'm on this street or that street, whether I will go to that store or that store. And this is this false sense of security that we do a lot of times. Oh, if I avoid that, then I'll be safe. It's, and it often doesn't work. And it makes us more susceptible to being harmed, right? I was attacked by a red-haired guy, so I'll stay away from all redheads and then I'll be safe. Like that's not what promotes safety. It's what was going on with that person. What was I ignoring? What signals was I missing? Not like, oh my gosh, it's the red hair that's the problem.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's go into our final mistake, and we will have one bonus mistake or tidbit for you at the end, okay?
Always good to have a bonus mistake.
Have a little extra mistake for your Friday. Okay, I'm going to say this word. It gets brought up a lot. The last mistake here, number 5. Shaming yourself for struggling.
Yeah.
A lot. Oh my gosh. I remember I was in therapy for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks, months and months. And I was like, why the hell is this not freaking working? What? I mean, I was totally shaming myself for the lack of progress. Why is this a mistake?
Yeah, it's interesting. So when you said shaming yourself, I immediately thought of the internal critic. Okay, so I'm bad, I'm wrong, I'm no good. That's the kind of the shame response. It's not something bad happened to me. It's not even I did something bad. It's I am bad and I am wrong. That's one of the ways we distinguish and differentiate shame. It's not what I did or it's who I am, right? So this I'm a bad person is really problematic. I'm struggling, like I'm struggling in my therapy, or I'm struggling for whatever reason that I'm struggling. And one of the things that's important to be aware of, and this is again, this idea of protection, is we want to love up the critic, because the critic, or the shamer, as I would say, Kyle, is trying to get you to behave or do it differently so that you won't get in more trouble, right? So it has a good intention, even though the effect, or where it learned to help in that way, is internalizing the energy of somebody who is critical or shaming to you. So I'm always trying to, what I do with the shamer or the critic is I kind of appreciate it. I want to be kind to it and I want to appreciate it. Where did you learn to help that way? Is what I like to say to them. Where did you learn to help that way? And then it's like, wow, this guy gets me. Like, wow, this guy really understands my intention. And then I would say something to the shamer or the critic, like, are you interested in helping in a different way? Because they do want to help, but they just learned in the wrong way, and they learned from the wrong people. Because when you're the recipient of shame, you know how effective it is. So you're going to use it to try to get nothing, right? That's the point.
Interesting.
So, it's like that shit was effective. I'm going to use that to help me, right? So I want to acknowledge first that the shamer is trying to help. And then I want to ask, where'd you learn? And usually it's from the perpetrator in some way. My dad yelled at me. My mom used to shame me. The kids on the playground used to bully me all the time, right? So, so you learned how to help from people who are harmful. Is that right? Right? And then they're like, you get me.
Yeah.
Like, are you interested in helping in a different way? And they are. They are. It's like, why don't we work together so that we can help without causing more harm? And that's one of the ways, because most people say, don't shame, don't be critical. I'm like, well, that doesn't work. Because you haven't gotten to the intention beneath the behavior and figure out why it's helping.
Yeah. Another one of my favorite words, intention.
Mm-hmm.
Intention with that. Yeah. It's like that means so much more to me than the actual behavior most of the time. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. What was your intention? Okay. So I want to talk about, first of all, if you have a question for Dr. Frank and you're watching this live, you can put it in the comments and we'll see if we have time to take some of those. This internal family systems, IFS, a lot of people turn to this. Well, do a lot of people turn to it for trauma, or do they turn to it for other things and then they realize there's like underlying trauma?
It's a really good question. Internal family systems is really popular right now. Like, it's really the hot therapy.
Very in vogue, very hot.
It's it, right? It totally is. And I don't know that everybody knows really what it is used for and how it's helpful. And, some of the languaging in it is a little bit hard for people. There's this like firefighter, manager, exile, like what the hell are you talking about? But the premise is really, from my perspective, the premise of internal family systems is really the inside out movie. Like, we all have different parts of our personality and they're all trying to help in different ways. Some parts of us, like joy, sadness, fear, anger, and disgust, in the Inside Out movie, are emotions, and they're represented by these different little caricatures inside. So it's important to know that we all have different aspects or part of our personality. It's normal. It's not like everybody is Sybil, right? Everybody has multiple personalities. And there's a way to heal our trauma, because these different parts of us will do extreme behaviors, hold on to extreme thoughts and beliefs in the service of protecting our pain and our wounding, which we talked about before around suppressing. So internal family systems has a way of working on different parts of ourselves and the parts that carry pain and the parts that try to protect. What ended up happening for me, and this was what happened when I started working in the field of internal family systems, is because of my background with Bessel van der Kolk and in the trauma center, I created a trauma curriculum specifically around the internal family systems model of therapy that I have been teaching there for many, many years and wrote books about it. So it was one of the things that Dick Schwartz, the founder, asked me to do, was adapt this model. It's like, hey, I think this model would be really good for trauma. Can you create a model? Can you create a program around it? So it's become very popular in the trauma field because trauma was kind of what I did for most of my career. And I liked some of these concepts around IFS and put those two worlds together by integrating neuroscience knowledge, which kind of I do. So it's been super helpful, and people resonate like, oh, it's a way to be with myself without being judgmental or critical. It's a way to release the pain that I'm carrying. Like, there's a process around this model. And I'm really working, honestly, and I think I said this in the course, to keep creating more and more curriculum for the general public, so that if people don't have access like this, maybe, to going to a therapist who's trained in IFS, then there's ways to do this work on your own also. So I'm really grateful to you all for doing this to help people start on that healing journey who don't have access or don't have the funds.
And sometimes I think, especially with the topic of trauma healing, sometimes doing it by yourself is better, is easier. There's a commenter, Cicada 17. She said, I've never taken any programs, never was open to talk to anyone. It was an embarrassment and it was too extreme. She also ends her comment saying, I still carry so much love and fight in me. I love that last line. But that's a lot of people who go, I don't want to talk to anybody about this right now. That maybe they just don't want to for whatever reason. But they still want to do some work, but they want to keep it with themselves right now.
And there is a way to do this. Journaling is so helpful. I run a lot of courses now, like Write to Heal, WRITE, right? Writing to Heal, super helpful. There's a way people do meditation. There's a way to work on this. Here's what I'll say. It depends on where you're at and what season of life you're in. Hey, I want to keep this to myself right now. Totally fine. I don't want to go to a total stranger and share my most vulnerable things. Okay, that's totally fine. And Kyle, I want to say that when trauma occurs in relationship and in connection, it's also useful to have it heal in relationship and in connection. And that doesn't necessarily mean a therapist only, okay, or a coach. It means relationship. There's a lot of corrective moments that can happen in safe relationships in your life, whether it's with your partner, whether it's with your kid, whether it's with your parent or friends. So yes, there's some of the work that you do by yourself, super important. And if you have trauma that was initiated, perpetuated by another person, safe relationships are a way to heal. And that doesn't mean it has to be in therapy. So I want to do the both and there. What I mean?
Smart.
It's okay to do some of this work alone. And it's also really helpful and healthy to be able to have corrective relational experiences in connection.
Wonderful. Wonderful, wonderful. You can learn more about IFS and other trauma therapies like EMDR or trauma-informed CBT. There are many, many. Somatic experiencing, one of my favorite topics. Oh my goodness. We have a series with experts on all of those different types of modalities at medcircle.com. And of course, if you're really looking to dig into your work, you can access MedCircle's latest course, All on Trauma, featuring Dr. Frank Anderson. The link is in the description below. And if you use the code HEAL50, and it's HEAL, by the way, HEAL50. Someone put in HEEL, like that, wrong HEAL. HEAL50, you get a discount on your course. That expires November 30th. Dr. Anderson, final thoughts on someone listening. Let's assume this person has experienced their trauma, not in recent days, but it is in their quote past, but they are feeling the weight of the trauma. They see and experience the impacts of what happened. And they are on this quote journey. And y'all, I know not everyone likes that word. Sometimes I hate that word too, but they're on this journey.
How about path?
They're on this path, a little better, towards a little more peace, and you have their full attention. What do you say to them?
I want to let people know that it's normal, that everybody goes through it, that there's not many people who are unscathed by life, because part of what happens is that we go through difficult, overwhelming moments at different times in our life. And the way to overcome or get beyond is to take back your power and take back your agency, because trauma disconnects us from our truth and our power because it's a violation of us, right? And so for you to be able to start the journey is, hey, I'm in charge. Hey, I have the strength. I have the wisdom. Can I listen to my intuition? Get yourself educated, learn what's available. And I'm really passionate about bringing that power of healing back to the person who has been harmed. This is really my latest passion. So you have it within you. Living your life only through the victim keeps you as a victim. Overpassing and ignoring and downplaying the trauma and pretending it didn't exist will also perpetuate it and create it. But truly taking back your power, your strength, and your wisdom to make that change is within your agency. And so I really want everybody to know that you can do it. I really, really believe that. And there is a path forward, and it's taking back your power and getting the resources that are available to release the stuff that doesn't belong to you. So that's my final departing message.
Yeah, you really can do it. You really can do it. And one thing I said the other day on a, was just for Med Circle members, but it was very well received. And I said, sometimes I just pretend, if I'm really depressed or really in this negative thought cycle, I just pretend I'm not. And I tell myself, okay, let's just pretend I wasn't depressed. What would I be saying about this? Let's just pretend that I didn't feel helpless and hopeless. What would I be saying about this? Let's just pretend I do feel helpless and hopeless. Okay. I'm not denying my feelings, but for a moment, let's pretend that I don't. And I say that to the person out there who's going, yeah, right. I can barely function. I barely get through the day. I get it. Right now, that's what's going on. But the path can lead you to a place where you don't feel like that every day. There is hope.
It's, that's neuroplasticity, and that's state change. It's state change and neuroplasticity. Even instead of pretending, like, what if I shifted out of hopeless and into joy for 10 minutes?
Yeah.
Because every time you shift out of hopeless, you're not reinforcing hopeless neural network.
Ooh, love.
Okay. So if you shift into joy for 10 minutes a day, you're reinforcing the joy neural network, right?
Nice. Oh, I love that.
It doesn't ignore.
That makes me feel like I'm doing the work when you give me that piece of information.
That's what I'm saying is there's a way shift. I can be happy right now, and then I can shift. And if I think about something sad, I can shift into feeling sad. We all have the capacity for state change.
Yeah.
But it's what you reinforce grows.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there is a way to do the both and maybe it's 5 minutes a day. Think about something joyful. That doesn't encode the pain, and it starts encoding the joys. That's a big first step that can be helpful.
Whew. Well, now you got 2 bonuses. That's a good first step. Thank you, Dr. Frank Anderson. You can learn more about Dr. Frank Anderson using the links in the description of this video, or you can go get the course, and Dr. Frank will take you down the path of healing. Thanks, Dr. Frank.
Thank you so much. It's always a pleasure to be here and be with you. So
awesome. Thank you so much for watching this video. And if you gave it a thumbs up, special thanks to you. It certainly helps us here on YouTube. I'm Kyle Kittleson. Remember, whatever you're going through, you got this.